Okay, bonjour. So in today's lesson, we are revising vocabulary from the very first GCSE topic, self and relationships, but we're doing it through looking at the grammar in the context of self and relationships. So things like the present tense, word order, possessive, things like that we have been revising on other topics, but we're going to put it in the context of self and relationships to see how much of that vocabulary we remember. So put today's date, title, and schéma, because you're doing this at home, in your book or Word, whatever you're deciding to work today. Okay, so the first activity is actually on the worksheet that's in the same Moodle area as this video. What you're going to do is fill in this grid with all different parts of ER verbs. We're only looking at ER verbs here first of all, because they are the most common verbs. There are more ER verbs than there are IR and RE. And by an RE verb, I mean a verb that ends in ER in its infinitive form. So you're going to be completing this grid by changing the ends of the verb for each person, and for some of them working back to find the infinitive. So remember, the infinitive, we know it's in the infinitive form Y. So hopefully you said because it will end in ER, so that means to something. So for example, here you've got to watch. So for this column, you're going to put the French and the English. So you need to put the English for these two, but for the rest, you are going to just fill in the French. So you need to make sure you know your ER verb endings. You might already know them, but if not, they are here, okay? So if we were just looking at the first line, regarder is to watch. So I cannot just say je regarde, because that will mean I too watch. So I need to take off the part that means to, take off that ER, and add on a new ending, an ending that is specific just to I, which is the letter E. So I say je regarde, R-E-G-A-R-D-E. You verbs then just simply add an S to it when it's in the ER form. We verbs add an ONS to that stem. He and she, look, is the same ending as I, so regarde. And then they is usually just an NT on the end of whatever the he, she form was, if they're regular, okay, in ER verbs. So fill in that grid. I'm not going through the answers in the lesson now because I want to see how well you are working out your present tense. So you're going to send that to me, okay? Right, so if you've unpaused, it means you've completed that grid and you're ready to move on. So let's practice a few present tense verbs. So we've got one ER verb and the rest now are IR verbs, just to be familiar with a few other endings. So you're going to change the verb in brackets into the right person based on the person here. And also think about what these sentences mean. Now, if you've carried on because you're still stuck, then here are the verb endings to help you in case you've forgotten, okay? Okay, so if you've unpaused, it means we're ready to check these. So I sing, je chante, I sing in a quiet concert with my friends. Tu finis tes devoirs, you finish your homework. You choose your own clothes. And if you wrote AVO with IS, it means you've forgotten that avoir is an irregular verb. I have, remember, is j'ai, okay? Okay, we're going back to the worksheet for one last time and then the rest will be back in your work area. So, of course, there's always exceptions. There's always a few verbs that don't follow the pattern. So what I'd like you to do is fill in as many of the forms of these irregular verbs as you can. You should be able to do quite a lot of the first three, but maybe not so much of to drink and to read. I'll give you a clue that to drink and to read are not all irregular. Some of them follow the RE endings here. So S for I and you, nothing for he, she, we, ONS, EZ, ENT, just like ER verbs, but not for all of them. That's why they're irregular here. Okay, so we don't use those as much, but these ones you should be very familiar with, especially aller, because we use that for the future tense. Remember, say I am going to go wherever, or I'm going to read, and so on. So pause the video and complete as much of that second grid on your worksheet as you can. Now you might have noticed on your worksheet there is a little note about looking at wordreference.com, because on word reference you can put in any verb and you can ask it to conjugate that verb. That means put that verb into all of its forms, and you can do that for every single tense. You could put in faire and in the conjugator it will tell you how you do I do, I did, I'm going to do, I could do, I would have done, all the different tenses, okay? So on. Right, so here are the answers. Can you please check yours? And if there are any missing, please put them in a different colour. As you can see, some of them aren't irregular. So if we look at these, for example, boire and lire are RE verbs. You would take off the last two letters. And for I and U verbs, we just add an S. So that is fine, that's following the pattern. But you're not supposed to add anything for he, she verbs, whereas they add a T. And then these ones are irregular too. They're strange that it becomes a U with a V. And this keeps the wa sound, but also with a V. This verb is completely irregular, as is this one, whereas these two actually follow the pattern of RE verbs. Take off the RE, add an S, okay? But like I said, these ones we should be more familiar with, especially the he, she, and I and you forms, okay? So complete that grid, and then when you're ready, let's move on. Okay, so we're going to practice two of the most important irregular verbs now, the verb être, to be, and the verb avoir that we haven't touched on as much today, which is to have. So you're going to pause the video and complete these sentences. You can just write the word that's missing if you want. You don't need to write the whole sentence. And then translate 3 to 5 of these sentences to get really back into understanding self and relationships vocabulary, okay? Remember that you are looking at the verb, is it être, avoir, and then what the person is going to be before it, okay? Okay, so let's check those then. So I am, je suis, en quatrième means in year 9, and my sister is en seconde. Okay, so if quatrième, 4th year, is year 9, they go the opposite way, counting like up, so she's 2 years above, okay? Tu as un animal à la maison? Do you have a pet at home? Oui, nous avons, so that's the we spelling of have. We have 2 cats. We are, nous sommes, en France, we are in France, but my friends are in Switzerland. Mes amis sont en Suisse. It's plural, therefore I need the they spelling, are. J'ai un match de rugby demain. I have a rugby match tomorrow. Et it is très important parce que mon équipe et moi, nous avons la possibilité de devenir champions. It's very important because my team and me, we have the possibility of becoming champions. And finally, ils ont quel âge literally means they have what age. So how old are they? John a 12 ans et Marie aussi, je crois. John has 12 years. In other words, John is 12 and Marie also, I believe. So remember, with age, we have to say have, not is. So correct those and your translations, okay? Right, let's look now at some word order with this context. What I want you to do is put these 4 sentences in the correct order. There's no punctuation or punctuation marks, so no capitals to show which word should come first, except obviously on the name, and no full stops to give clues there. So put these word sentences in order and then translate them into English, okay? If you are still stuck, okay, if you've carried on because you're still stuck, then I'm going to tell you what they should mean in English. And you can mark your English now if you've done the translations. And if you need longer then to work out the French for each one, pause after each one to work it out. Now you know what they're supposed to mean. So number 1 means the singers are very beautiful. Number 2, I have an old phone. Number 3, I get on well with my parents. They are nice. Number 4, Annie is really happy. So fill in the French if you haven't, and then unpause when you're ready to check them. Okay, so let's check the French then. So number 1, les chanteuses sont très belles. The singers are very beautiful. J'ai un portable vieux. I have an old phone. I get on well with my parents. Je m'entends bien avec mes parents. Ils sont sympas. They are nice. Annie is really happy. Annie est vraiment heureuse. Okay? Okay, let's look at asking questions now in this context. So what I want you to do is translate these 3 questions first of all into English, and then you have a sentence here. Je vais au concert à 20h en voiture avec mes amis. I want you to think of any questions you could ask to get the information in this answer. So what question was asked, or what questions, you might be able to think of more than one, did somebody ask in order to get this answer, okay? So pause the video and take the time you need. Okay, let's look at those questions then. So est-ce que is the same as saying like is or do. It turns any sentence into a question. So if that wasn't there and I just said tu vas au concert, I'd be saying you go to the concert. But by adding that there, I'm saying are you going to the concert, okay? Qu'est-ce que tu fais ce soir? So what? In other words, what is it that? Because we've got that, what is it that you do this evening? In other words, what are you doing this evening? À quelle heure vas-tu au cinéma? At what time are you going to the cinema? Okay. So with this one here, you could use the à quelle heure. At what time vas-tu au concert? What time are you going to the concert? It could also be what are you going to do this evening? It could be also est-ce que tu vas au concert? You could use those three, of course, but we could also change that to how are you getting to the concert, because it says by car. So I could say comment tu vas, est-ce que tu vas au concert, or comment vas-tu? They sometimes turn the question and the person around. Comment vas-tu au concert? How are you getting to the concert? Could be asking who you going to the concert with. Avec qui vas-tu au concert? Okay, so you should have used some of this to help you base this question and perhaps change the question words. Okay, let's look at now possessive adjectives. So we're looking at sentences in the self and relationships context, but we use possessive adjectives in other topics too. So what I want you to do is choose the correct word that would complete this sentence. So you can either just write the word that's missing, or you can write the whole sentence. If you'd like to also translate them to check your understanding, you can as well. Remember, they all mean my, your, or our. Okay, there is one in there that is about the word our. Okay, so number one, we have the three words for my, mon, ma, me. I'm talking about my tante, so that's my aunt, therefore she's a woman, so it needs to be ma. My aunt lives in France, habite en France. I do not have habiter, because that would be my aunt to live in France. Habiter is in the he, she form. Your phone is, we use super a lot in French, your phone is great. So portable, hopefully you know, is a masculine word. Although it ends in an E, because it is a modern word, it hasn't been around that long, modern words tend to be considered always masculine. Je m'entends bien avec, hopefully you remember this is I get on well with. Dad is masculine, therefore mon père. We've got two people here. My parents, we have the they ending of like, look with the NT, so it's got to be me. Mes parents aiment aller au cinéma. My parents like going to the cinema. And look, whenever we have two verbs next to each other in French, the second is in the infinitive, but never the first. We've got the they spelling of like to go with parents, so parents like, and then to go. I have to have the infinitive there. We've got friends are very important. All of this, the fact there is an S on the end of important, I've got the word are instead of is telling me straight away that it's plural. Plus there is an S on the end of friend. So I need the plural possessive. So it can't be mon. Okay, it's got to be no. Because both of these mean our, but this is notre if there's only one thing. So nos amis sont très importantes. And then finally, combien de temps passes-tu something ton ordinateur? Okay. So is it certes ta autant? Ordinateur is a modern thing, it is masculine and it doesn't end in E. Okay, so it's got to be ton. Okay. Right, now what you're going to do is put these words in the right order. So doing a similar sentence, activity to before. We're thinking less about that, was more about the adjectives, and getting the adjective in the right place. This is seeing if you can understand the sentence, okay? So off you go again, put them in the right order, and hopefully by putting them in the right order, that means you understand what they're talking about. Okay, if you're needing some clues, they're all to do with saying people's age or nationality, whether or not they have any children, or pets, or their height, okay? Okay, let's go through these then. So number one, we should have il a 15 ans. There's my person. In blue, my verb is a, has, then 15 years. They are English. Ils sont anglais. My parents, first of all, there's the person. Plural verb, they have. My parents have 2 boys and a girl. It couldn't have been 2 girls and a boy because the word boy has got an S on the end and not girl, and une is in the feminine spelling. Est-ce que, the question word is going to come first, isn't it? Est-ce que tu es, are you English or Scottish? Nous avons, so person first, we have a dog and a cat. Quel âge as-tu? Or you could say tu as quel âge? For how old are you? And finally, you are tall. Vous êtes grand. Okay? Right. We're going to look now at a much longer text. We're just in single sentences so far. We're still just looking at grammar first of all, though. So what I want you to do is to underline all the verbs in the text. Now, this text is in your on your worksheet as well, so you can go back to your worksheet now. And underline or circle, or if you want to print it and highlight it, or you can highlight them on the worksheet, however you want to do it. Might be easier to highlight the actual text, use that text highlighter on Word itself. I want you to find all 21 verbs. Okay, so remember, so verb is a doing word, but because we're talking about describing people, a lot of the time the verb is going to be have and is, because we're talking about what they're like, or their age, where they're born, that sort of thing. Okay? Off you go, see if you can find all 21. Okay, let's go through them then. So you've got j'ai, I have. Je suis, I am. Suis again, je suis né, I am born. In other words, I was born, because remember this is a Mrs. Vandertramp verb in the past. We can't say j'ai né, let's say je suis né. I have again. My brother has. He is. And then we've got to talk about a different brother. We've got aîné and how old he is, and cadet. So if you can see if you can work out whether aîné or cadet, which one means older or younger based on their age. We've got a. Je ne suis, I am not. Vous êtes, you are. My parents are. They have. They are. We have. The other spelling of we have. We have again. There is, il y a, literally it has there. It is, c'est. Nous sommes, we are. We have. You have. Okay, there are actually 22. Let's see if you can find the one that I've missed. It's going to come up at the end, okay? Okay, what I'd like you to do now is to separate these verbs into 2 columns, okay? Don't repeat any of the same verbs. Ne répétez pas les mêmes. So once you use j'ai, if there is another j'ai later on, don't use it again. Just find each verb once, and I want you to separate them into 2 columns. Think about how you could do that, giving you a clue of to have and to be, okay? So pause the video and do that now. Okay, so hopefully we've gone for, in column 1, et, a, on, and avant, and avait, and in column 2, suis, et, sommes, sont, and you were able to work out that these all come from avoir. They're all the different ways to say to have, and the and these are all the different ways to say am or are, okay? And there was one other here that we missed in the first highlighting, which is e for is as well, okay? Right, so by going through that text, finding the verbs, you've hopefully got a bit of an idea about what's going on in that text because you had to skim read. So now you're going to répondre aux questions and you're going to répondre en français. So you're answering in French. I've given you the sentence starters for the first 2, okay? Let's go through them. So quel âge? So we've highlighted our different question words here. So if you've forgotten your question words, look those up, okay? It's good revision for you. So quel âge, what age, has, remember now today, this is has, Florian. So I could say Florian has, or I could just say he has. So taking that from the question and put it in a different order, he has. And then all I need to do is go to the text and find his age and put it after. Où est-il né? Even if you didn't understand what où est-il né means, if you looked in the text of né, you could see né here. But you can't say je suis né because that would say I. So we need to say he. And instead of suis, he is est. So you've taken this from our question, and even if you don't understand what it means, we can use that to make a sentence. Il est né, and then making sure I answer them with a question word. Où is where, so I need to put a place, okay? So I'm not going to explain any more for the others. If you're not sure what the question word means, that's important to work that out. And then use the bits I've highlighted. So I've highlighted the person, the subject of the activity, and then the verb that you can then use to make a full sentence in French, okay? So pause the video and off you go. Okay, so number 1 then. Il a, so mark yours in a different colour, il a 14 ans, he's 14 years old. Il est né à King's Lynn. Combien de frères a-t-il? How many brothers does he have? So I'm going to need to say he has, il a. And then he talks about his frère aîné, his oldest brother, and his frère cadet, his younger brother. And he talks here as well, my 2 brothers. So il a 2 frères. Quel âge a son frère aîné? So again, even if you didn't understand aîné, you could find that in here. Mon frère aîné a 18 ans. So I'm going to take that. Son frère aîné a, or you could say il a 18 ans. Où son frère aîné est-il étudiant? So I know that his frère aîné is étudiant. Even if you didn't know what question word où was, the only detail it then gives as well as that is Manchester. So I'd say he is étudiant à Manchester, or il est à Manchester, okay? So où obviously means where. Est-ce que ses 2 frères sont sportifs? So his 2 brothers are sporty. So obviously it's asking, are his 2 brothers sporty? If I look up here, see mes 2 frères sont sportifs. So literally you could just take all of that and put it there. His 2 brothers are sporty, or you can change it. Yes, they are sporty. Comment sont ses parents? So are his parents. So what question word is comment? You might have said how, so how are his parents? But remember, we also use it not to talk about how are you in general, but what are you like? Okay, so you can see here, mes parents sont sympas, mais ils ont tous les deux un travail difficile, ils sont professeurs. So I'm talking about what they're like, so really, the only thing it says about their personality is that they're nice. So I could take the person, say son parents, his parents are nice. If you've taken mes parents and not changed it to say, then you said my parents are nice, and you wouldn't get a mark for that, okay? Okay, fantastic, excellent. So we've gone over a lot of different grammar points there and basic vocabulary for describing people, re-put into our minds, but ages and personality and things. So we're going to do some interactive activities now, including some listening, past paper listening based on self and relationships. We can improve our listening skills for assessment as well as our self and relationship vocabulary. So submit your work from this to add submission, or you can do it all at the end once you've done everything today. Super.